About 10 months ago, I uploaded a video titled FNAF Needs to End. I was starting to become burnt out and disillusioned with the main Five Nights at Freddy's series. While still being a fan, I mostly kept my focus trained on those original basic Scott Cawthon games, being mostly uninterested with the new direction the series was taking with Security Breach. I thought the game had a whole lot of missed potential. I mean, the first real free roam FNAF game? This wasn't some fake feeling of free roaming like Sister Location, nor was this a fan game like The Joy of Creation Reborn. No, this is a real, official FNAF game where you wouldn't be constrained to your dingy little office. Granted, that original formula was pretty fun, and most importantly, unprecedented. When you're so accustomed to the gameplay of other horror games and you sit down to play the first Five Nights at Freddy's for the first time, it can be a bit of a shock. You mean I can't move from this spot? I just have to sit here and let them come to me? And all I have to protect myself are these stupid doors that drain my power? Nobody had seen anything like this before, and this addicting gameplay loop based on resource management captured the hearts of many. But when this is the formula for so many games in a row, it gets a bit tiring.
I think my mask of sanity is about to slip.
And this is where Security Breach comes in. Finally, a breath of fresh air. However, the game was plagued with bugs at launch, some even game-breaking. Some were more lucky than others, but if you want to see someone who got the short end of the stick, Markiplier's Let's Play will do a pretty good job at that.
We're gonna go down to parts and services, and I'm gonna shove a beak inside of you, and you are going to be able to talk better. Did you hate the idea that much?
Not only this, many found the game to be completely not scary.
Gregory, do you see that small vent on the floor? Have you ever heard of Among Us, Gregory?
This was one of my main arguments in that original video. FNAF 1 in particular just has this atmosphere of dread about it. There's no other feeling quite like it. The most perfectly crafted camera angles give you a sense of mystery, as Markiplier says in this clip.
God, spooky. It's just like something about the elements of this particular version of the game was all in the unknown. You can't see it. You don't get a good look at him. Like, you know he's coming, but you don't really know what is going on there. Like, it's so many layers of unknown. And the fact that, like, when Freddy comes off the stage, you don't even see him besides his freaking eyeballs. God. Just look at the angles that were chosen for this game. God, the first one's a masterpiece.
The designs of these characters are just the right amount of uncanny. The ambient sounds you hear throughout the game just increase the pressure. You feel so much anxiety as you flip down the camera or press the light buttons, not knowing if there could be an animatronic standing right there. The first game is perfect, and this is an opinion I will stand by until the end of time. But this scariness in my eyes had gone a little downhill since then. FNAF 2 and FNAF 3 aren't very scary, with people's reactions to Springtrap's jump scare being the entire reason Scott created FNAF 4 to begin with. It wasn't scary enough.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
So then he leaned in super hard with FNAF 4, trying to make it the scariest game in the series. And I'll admit, it's effective. Opening the door and listening for the breathing is very tense. There could be an animatronic just inches away from your face, and if you make a mistake, you're getting a gnarly jump scare. And ear-piercing one at that, since you have to turn your sound up so high to hear the breathing. But this was just one shining point in the seemingly endless sea of FNAF games. Sister Location, not very scary, which is a shame. So much missed potential. I mean, Yaz video over Sister Location really drives this point home. But Laura's event is entirely scripted, it's the same thing every time. The Funtime Freddy minigames had potential to be pretty scary, but they're incredibly easy. Hell, you don't even see Baby do anything in the entire game, and she's the frickin' mascot. And there was just so much potential for some scary moments, what with the opening faceplates and whatnot, but the only time you see that is in the jump scares, and you barely get jump scared in this game besides on night 4. And I don't want to talk about night 4.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
FNAF 6 can be scary at some points. The salvage sections can be pretty tense as you're staring down an animatronic that could jump scare you at any second. And during the nighttime sections, trying to complete your tasks while the animatronics are crawling through the vents is pretty anxiety inducing. But that's about it. Like, you never even get to see the animatronics until they're actively jump scaring you. I think this is executed well in FNAF 4 due to having to listen for the breathing, but this doesn't work nearly as well in FNAF 6. Ultimate Custom Night wasn't even attempting to be scary, that was never the point, so let's just skip over that one.
It's not my fault. I have these fat plastic fingers and can't press the buttons.
Sadly, Security Breach didn't really rectify this. I never found any part of the game to be super scary. The animatronic designs weren't scary, I found Vanny to be incredibly underutilized, and in my opinion, the main thing that made FNAF 1 scary was completely lost. I mean, these animatronics have character, which on the one hand can be pretty cool. It's like they're completely conscious and sentient without the need of any spirit possessing them. But also, what I loved about the first game is that the characters were completely silent besides their laughs, their human-like groans, their footsteps echoing through the halls. It made the whole scenario so much more mysterious and terrifying. However, in Security Breach, when these animatronics are roaming around having full-on conversations with you, I don't find it to be super scary. And everything is just so colorful and bright, it's just not scary. The first game was so moody and atmospheric with the dark, somewhat abandoned feel of the building. Security Breach didn't capture this feeling at all. In my original video, I made the claim that it seemed like the games were just catered to kids now, which, of course, it always has been FNAF's prime audience. I was a kid once too, I get it, but when I was a kid, I was obsessed with that older style FNAF, the kind of FNAF that really scared me. I think kids these days would still enjoy that direction for a series. You don't have to make everything all non-scary and bright and colorful to appeal to kids. See, what the f even is that? The gameplay and the scariness weren't my only complaints though. I thought the direction the lore and story was going in was becoming completely insane, not to mention overly convoluted. That's not to say FNAF hasn't always been that way, but it felt more grounded, I guess. It was just a story of a guy who killed some kids who went on to possess the animatronic suits they were stuffed into. The story of the kid seeking revenge against the man behind the slaughter, who meets an untimely fate himself. This was my FNAF. It then transitioned into more of a human drama, which I didn't mind necessarily. The story of the Afton family, William Afton losing his kids, going mad trying to find ways to bring them back, and Michael Afton's quest to avenge his victims with the help of Henry. Granted, this is where we start to get into some of those sci-fi elements. We introduce the concept of Remnant, which William Afton wants to harness to become immortal, apparently? Okay, whatever. The Scooper, animatronics designed to capture and kill kids and extract their remnant, so on and so forth. See, I don't necessarily hate this. Sure, I wish it was just supernatural stuff, like the souls of the kids possess the robots, boom, done. This is a little more complicated than necessary, but sure, it's fine. But then we get into Help Wanted, and now William Afton's consciousness is in the circuit boards, and he's possessing the people who play the game. What the f***? And then in Security Breach, he's back again? Like, what the f***? Why? I know he always comes back, but literally, enough is enough. And then the blob? What the f*** is the blob? Most of us seem to think that these were the souls of the kids, but that completely defeats the point of everything that's happened in the story up until this point. The souls were supposed to be set free, William Afton is supposed to be burning in hell. What is going on? And what is this about robot kids, MatPat? And all of this crazy book lore that may or may not be canon to the game lore? Who can say? There are more FNAF novels than there are games.
Hello, this is Scott Coffin.
Stop! But now we enter Security Breach's brand new DLC, Ruin. Will this rectify the issues I have with the game, or will it just be more of what I've hated about this series? Believe it or not, I have really enjoyed Ruin, more than I thought I would. Leading up to its release, I wasn't even following what was going on with the game. I was just so uninterested in where the series was going after Security Breach. I was happy for people like Dawko, who had a great time with the game.
What's out there? This is not FNAF! That's not FNAF!
It's been such a difficult day for
No.
all of us.
But I just wasn't feeling it as much. I had a lot of problems with Security Breach, but I didn't hate it. There were some aspects of it I enjoyed, especially the community aspect. I thought that, all bugs aside, the game wasn't bad, it was just a bad FNAF game. I thought it wasn't for me, and I kept indulging in all of the fan-made content I was enjoying at the time instead. But then Ruin released, and I decided, hey, let's give it a shot. And I really enjoyed myself. For one, the game feels really polished this time around. For the most part, it seems that Steel Wool has worked out the issues with all the bugs, and this game runs perfectly fine, which is like the lowest bar any game should reach. Now, is the game scary? Honestly, I did find it to be a little bit spooky. For one, seeing the Pizzaplex all decrepit and destroyed gives it a completely different vibe. Walking around the now abandoned location, through dark corridors and the remnants of the familiar locales from the main game, it's so much spookier. It actually feels like somewhere I'd be scared to explore in real life, which is the kind of vibe that the first game gave me. But what about the animatronics? Well, in Security Breach we deal plenty of damage to them, stealing different parts from them to use on Freddy. As such, when we see them this time, this is reflected. Chica has no voice box, which honestly just makes her scarier. Monty is just... I don't even know. He's so destroyed, but it's a little creepy. Well, except for...
Okay.
Yeah. And as for Roxanne, she's still upset about losing her eyes. I won't say they're the scariest animatronics ever, but these guys being all beat up like this really does increase the scariness factor. I don't know how to explain why, but it's just a little freakier. Not as freaky as Withered Chica, but still. Holy sh**, look at Freddy! This is so badass. He has no head, his stomach is torn wide open, and he chases us down. It's so cool. This is actually pretty scary. Especially knowing how Freddy was in the original game. Going from being our best friend to this absolutely terrifying thing coming after us is amazing. It also helps clear some confusion regarding which Security Breach ending was canon. In the Princess Quest ending, Freddy gets torn apart by the staff bots, and we see in the final image that Gregory took Freddy's head with him. So yeah, it definitely seems like Princess Quest was the canon ending. Now that I mention it, let's talk about the story a little bit. So we follow Cassie, Gregory's friend, who has received a message from him telling her that he's trapped inside the Pizzaplex under the sinkhole. Alright, seems simple enough, but of course, the entire time, Gregory seems a little sus. We have to wear this Vanny mask to traverse through the Pizzaplex, and deactivate some security nodes and whatnot. It's a pretty cool visual, honestly, when you're wearing the mask. But man, turning off the security, huh? That just seems like the brightest idea in the world. What the f*** is that? Yeah, so at first glance, everyone was like, ooh, glitch trap. We'll talk about that more in a minute. But yeah, don't get caught by this guy. He'll attract the animatronics to you. Luckily though, he only appears in the AR world, so just take the mask off and he won't get you. Anyways, Cassie continues through the location, getting the best of all the animatronics, and... Okay, I know I said I didn't like that the animatronics are so sentient and everything, but man, it hits kind of hard here. Like, during the day, when they're performing for the kids and stuff, it's an amazing idea to have such interactive animatronics. I bring this up because, spoilers, Cassie has to shut off Roxy, which is her favorite animatronic, in order to progress from the Roxy Raceway to the sinkhole. But Roxy remembers Cassie from one of her previous visits to the Pizzaplex, remembering her birthday and all. From a lore standpoint, this really shows how advanced these animatronics are and how catered they really are towards children. Like, this would be a genuine fun place for kids, and if they happen to not have any friends, the animatronics are right there to give them an experience they won't forget.
Welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life.
So, yeah, it is more than a little heart-wrenching having to shut off Roxy when you have this bond with her. We make it down to the good old Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place from FNAF 6, and we actually get to see the office and everything down there in the vent systems in full 3D, which is pretty cool if you ask me. We continue even further underground where we find the security system, MXES. Oh boy, sure sounds like a good idea to shut this thing off. And then we blow down this concrete wall like it totally wasn't meant to keep anything locked in. Guys, did we learn nothing from Henry sealing up the safe room with William trapped inside? Like, come on! And then we enter the newly opened area where Gregory is there. Except, oh wait, it's not Gregory, it's... And then boom, we're running out of there, the Mimic is close behind, we enter the elevator and Gregory betrays us and sends the elevator crashing down because no witnesses, bitch. Okay, let's back up. So the Mimic is a character from the Tales of the Pizzaplex novels. Long story short, a Fazbear engineer created the robot with the intention of it entertaining his son, but the thing is, the robot is programmed to learn from the things it sees around it. A whole lot like AI is currently learning from the things we're feeding into it. So yeah, the Mimic intakes all of this information and it copies it. Simple, right? The engineer's son dies, of course, it's FNAF, and so the engineer decides to take his anger out on the Mimic. He really lays into this thing, beating it up to no end. But of course, the Mimic learns from this behavior, causing it to copy it and become violent. Long story short again, this thing basically starts killing a bunch of people, Fazbear technicians and the like, and it is a bloodbath. Eventually, they reprogram it to help them clear the rubble at the FNAF 6 location, having it tear apart some of the animatronics and whatnot. And of course, it starts killing once again, instead of starting to tear the Fazbear Entertainment crew apart limb by limb. Gregory and Vanessa eventually manage to trap the Mimic down there behind that concrete wall. And they set up the security system, MXES, which who would have guessed is actually not Glitch Trap and was trying to protect us the whole time. So that's a brief explanation of the Mimic. If you want a more detailed one, check out Dako's video. So people were theorizing that the Mimic would play a role in the Ruin DLC before its release, and a lot of people were up in arms about it. A lot of them being people who absolutely hate the books and don't want them to have anything to do with the games. I mean, to some extent, I agree. I never want to see Sea Bonnies or Fazgoo in a FNAF game ever. But the Mimic? Well, I was in that same boat at first. I was a little bit skeptical, but honestly, I think it's a really cool villain now that I actually know the backstory and I've seen it in action. I mean, it solves my biggest issue with Security Breach from a lore standpoint, the fact that Afton comes back again. Now, the Burn Trap ending isn't canon, we've discussed this, but Burn Trap was most definitely what the Mimic would have become in that scenario. The Mimic likes to hide in random costumes and stuff to attack people, which we see in the books, and we also see it in the hidden ending where it's wearing this here costume, so it's entirely possible the Mimic would have mimicked Afton and taken on the persona of Burn Trap. Therefore, Afton hasn't come back again and he really is burning in hell. Thank God. Also, I just want to make note of this before I forget. I'm sitting here editing this video, right? And FNAF John just uploaded his theory video for Ruin, and I think it would be extremely worth your time to check that video out after you finish this one, if you haven't seen it already. I sat through it, and I think he brings up some really interesting points regarding the Mimic, you know, such as the parallels between Edwin Murray and Henry, the fact that these costumes that the Mimic wears are actually Springlock costumes, and what that means for the future of the series, and how this all ties in to the novels and sister location with Circus Baby. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Let's get right back to the video. And Dako proposed a theory for the Blob that I think is pretty interesting. Rather than it being the souls of the children, he claims that it could be the victims of the Mimic who are creeping around the building seeking revenge for their deaths. Now that I can get behind. I was seriously concerned that they brought back all those souls that were supposed to be set free in FNAF 3 and FNAF 6. Like, it was genuinely pissing me off that the Blob even existed because of that. But this makes sense. That's a theory I actually like. And if Dako wasn't the first one to propose it, then let me know in the comments, but he was the first one that I heard talk about it. And I'm glad other people have seemed to be enjoying the Mimic as a character too. It really seems to be the new main villain of the FNAF series, even as far back as Help Wanted. Because guess what? The Mimic's programming is used in the VR game, and that is the virus. That is Glitch Trap in a sense. And why does it take on that appearance? Because it mimicked those old circuit boards that were scanned into the game, the ones that supposedly had William Afton's consciousness on it. Okay, that part is really complicated, but I still find it cool. Basically, the Mimic is both a physical animatronic and a program that is placed in the game, as well as the Pizzaplex itself, allowing it to control the animatronics in the building and stuff. I think. I don't know. This is really complicated, but I've started to come around to it, you know? I mean, it's not like this is Kingdom Hearts. This lore is pretty understandable for the most part. It's nothing too complicated, and once you wrap your head around it, I think it's pretty cool. Now, feel free to disagree if you'd like. I know some people still don't like the Mimic as a character, but I think it's really cool. Now, do I wish all that information was actually presented in the games and you didn't have to read the books to learn all that backstory? Yes, of course, but at this point we're just used to it. This is how FNAF has always been. I mean, we used to find background information that was pretty important to the game's story in the damn source code of Scott's website. This isn't anything new. So, yeah, you saw the title of the video. Do I hate FNAF? Of course not. I could never hate FNAF. This series has been a really big part of my childhood. I know I'm showing my age there, but who cares? I've loved this series since its inception, and I will always love it. Does part of me still wish that the games felt the same as they did back in 2014? Yes, of course. I'll never shut up about how much I adore the first game, and even the second game to a lesser extent. And I say to a lesser extent because I still can't beat 1020 mode because I f***ing hate Toy Bonnie. They are some of the most masterfully crafted horror games, as simple as they are if you ask me, and that simplicity is part of what makes that so amazing. But I've done a lot of thinking since last October, and I think even if it's not the same, I'm ready to see where this franchise is heading. I mean, I could never hate it.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
I never even hated Security Breach, it just wasn't what I wanted out of FNAF at the time. And you know what? That's okay, even though I've come around to Security Breach a little bit these days, and I definitely think Ruin has redeemed it for me. You don't have to love the current state of FNAF. And that's because there's so much FNAF content out there beyond that. I mean, there are countless amazing FNAF fan games, many that are objectively better than some of those classic FNAF games. No offense, Scott. If you're looking for darker, grittier experiences, or just experiences that scratch that classic FNAF itch, there is no shortage of fantastic experiences from small developers that could certainly use your support. Especially regarding the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, which almost feels like the perfect answer to this conundrum. All of these developers are making fan games that are under the official FNAF label thanks to Scott, and that's amazing. Granted, FNAF Plus seems like it's pretty much cancelled now because of Fiznom being Fiznom, which does suck because I was pretty excited for this game. But hey, if a FNAF 1 remake is what you're looking for, you can most definitely find some great ones out there. And as for the rest of the initiative, you've got Pop Goes, Five Nights at Candy's, The Joy of Creation, plenty of good stuff coming out of it. Furthermore, the movie is finally coming out this year, after a long time of waiting, and it's looking pretty good. I'll be there day one, no doubt. There are some things in the trailers that have seemed a little strange, but nothing that'll ruin the experience. And if nothing else, there's nothing wrong with falling back on Old Reliable if you're unsatisfied with today's FNAF. Believe me, you're not alone. The community still loves those old games too, and there's plenty of newcomers enjoying the series for the first time, which has been really awesome to see. Also, I haven't really had an opportunity to plug this until now, but my buddy Ghost uploaded a video a while back, a Gmod video, where I'm Colonel Sanders. Do we even know that he's dead? Let me double check. Yeah, double check.
Do we know that it's dead? That he's dead? Starts beating. That he's dead.
So if that doesn't pique your interest, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Anyway, that's all I got. I hope you have a fantastic day.